We have a new city, weird houses, and confirmation of a long speculated cult. No, we're not here to talk about Hollywood. We're here to talk about another discovery in ancient Egypt. And it is a new city, it would seem. I have parts of a couple different articles to go through because they each offer different things. And then I want to go through some of the speculation on. So there is growing speculation, growing sort of trends towards speculation of ancient Egypt, where it might be and why. And I think that this sort of the discovery of this city allows us an entry point to that discussion that I think is very fruitful, would be very fruitful if we would just have it a little bit louder. In an article titled "Archaeologists Found a Lost Egyptian City Buried in the Nile Delta," subtitled "This Discovery Opens New Doors to Our Understanding of Daily Life, Spirituality, and Urban Planning in the Delta" from Popular Mechanics by Tim Newcomb, we get the following. Here's what you'll learn when you read this story. Archaeologists discovered a lost ancient city of Imet in modern-day Egypt's eastern Nile Delta. Included with the find were multi-story tower homes showing the urbanization of the area. Evidence indicated the worship of the city's patron deity, the Cobra goddess Wadjet, waned over time. The discovery of the ancient city met in Egypt's Imet. That's embarrassing. The discovery of the ancient city Imet in Egypt's eastern Nile Delta offers intriguing insights, including the architectural urbanization of the area prior to the Roman era, the worship of the city's patron deity, the Cobra goddess Wadjet, excavations at Tel El Farain. I have a heavy Midwestern tongue, okay? I can't do any better than that. Reveal cultural norms during the early to middle 4th century BC, which feature intricate urbanization with substantial tower houses, structures that were basically multi-story buildings supported by the exceptionally thick foundation walls, according to a statement from the University of Manchester. These tower houses are mainly found in the Nile Delta between the late period and the Roman era and are rare elsewhere in Egypt. Nikki Nielsen, researcher with the University of Manchester, said in a statement, "Their presence here shows that Imet was a thriving and densely built city with a complex urban infrastructure." I believe Egypt is much older than we think, than we are taught. I believe that Egypt was much larger than we are taught, than we have sort of the tools to think that it was. Now, I do not necessarily blame the classic archaeologists for this. I think that they are acting in parameters and being gatekeepers. There are some nefarious, right? There are some that try to discredit rather than keep an open mind. And I think that those people should be shouted down because that's the way that this stuff is supposed to work. The marketplace of ideas involves a lot of shouting, unfortunately, when someone is acting awry. I think that discoveries like this are going to keep pushing the size of Egypt bigger, the scope of Egypt more civilized, etc., as time goes on. And we will end this video with why I think Egypt is going to be proven to be older than we are being told, and why it might take us a little bit to get there. But in the second article about this find, lost Nile Delta city of Imet, built around Cobra goddess cult, uncovered in Egypt from ancientorigins.net. In the floodplain of Egypt's eastern Nile Delta, sun-baked and desolate archaeologists have uncovered a city once built under the watchful eye of the Cobra goddess Wadjet. Underneath the mound of Tel Alaferin, mound of the pharaohs, where were the forgotten remains of Imet, an important center of Egypt's late period, now reappearing after centuries of dust and abandonment. What they've discovered is not a single temple or a royal tomb, but a whole slice of ancient life: multi-storied houses, ceremonial causeways, granaries, and religious artifacts, all stunningly preserved in an area where mud brick tends to dissolve into the ground. Where mud brick tends to dissolve into the ground. It is a miracle that we are finding this stuff. How much stuff was there we have not found. Conducted by Dr. Nikki Nilsson of the University of Manchester in association with Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiques and the University of Sadat City, this latest excavation strips away the city's urban layers from a town once the capital of Lower Egypt's 19th province. The road to Wadjet. At the spiritual center of Imet was the Temple of Wadjet, the cobra-headed goddess and formidable defender of Lower Egypt. She was no docile deity. Her formalized serpent headdress crowned pharaonic foreheads as proof of regal legitimacy and divine indignation. Now, this is the Nile Delta. This is the Nile. Egypt is kind of all along here. So the eastern Nile Delta would roughly look like this third here. So I could not find a map to tell me where Imet was, but maybe this is still too new to have a detailed map out there, but it's going to be somewhere in this area. Now, this area is notable because there's been stuff there for thousands of years. You would think that someone would have known this stuff was going on there, right? This should all be pretty well mapped out area, and we're still finding all sorts of new stuff. But you see all this brown stuff here? All this light brown stuff here? You know what that is. That's a desert. That's not any desert. That's the Sahara Desert. This map here shows the absolute Chad level scope, not Chad, Giga Chad level scope of the Sahara Desert. A massive and inhospitable stretch of land. The Sahara Desert, basically the entire northern portion of Africa. So that is Egypt right here. This is where the entire kingdom was, sort of right in there. This is the Sahara Desert. This is the entirety of what we know as Egypt. So Lower Egypt was actually in the northern part because of it was referred to as Lower Egypt because of the way that the Nile flowed. So this is Upper Egypt here, Lower Egypt here, but all of that that we just showed, all of those landmarks, all of that happens right in here. Right in here. Very small spot. Entire Sahara Desert. Now, been a lot of excavation in here. And if what I understand is correct, there is a lot of archaeology done right in here for ancient humanoids. If I am correct in this. There is some archaeology done here, but not for stuff that's quite that old, at least as far as I know. So I want to show you something. Remember, all of this Sahara Desert that's colored in orange, right now looks like this. It's just sand. It is inhospitable. This is what it looked like 11,000 to 5,000 years ago. So if you pay attention here, and I've seen maps that have it even greener than this, even more lush than this. This was known as the humid period of the Sahara Desert. Not a desert, is it? In fact, here, right up there, is Egypt. That's where everything we're talking about happened, in that little area there. Well, this is all green back then, but it's not today. One of the funny things about Egyptian history is that they have found a king's list that goes way back, Scorpion King back, right? And they think a lot of it is just myth and legend. But if you sit down with it and you map it back, it probably goes back to about 11,000, 12,000 years ago, when, by the way, all of this area was green. It's not now. It's not being excavated now. What are the odds that during this humid period of the Sahara Desert, we had the actual origins of Egypt that are now seemingly lost to the sands of time? What if that was when Egypt was really birthed? That's when Göbekli Tepe goes back to 12,000, 11,000 years ago. Where did those people come from? Where did those people go? Who were those people? Who were the Göbekli Tepans? Who were the original Egyptians? How far back does that really go? I think it goes back to this humid era of the Sahara Desert. I think it goes back this far, and I think we will never probably find even hints of most of what actually transpired there, because it is now in the Sahara Desert. It is now in a place that is not probably ever going to be excavated. But I think so. There was I've told this story on the channel before. Way back when. Actually, I don't think it was that way back when. I think it might have been early 2000s. They were trying to figure out, hey, if this evolution thing really happened, there would be a fish that had the ability to breathe on land. It had basically, it was basically amphibian, but it was a fish. And they said, well, where would this happen? If we could prove this, where would this have happened? And I believe it was someplace, Alberta, someplace like that up in Canada. I think that's where it was. And they got, they did basically the math. How far back would this have been? Where would this likely have happened? Etc. They set out, and guess what? They frickin' found those fossils. 1 in a billion, 1 in a trillion type odds that they would ever find something, but they figured out where it would be, they figured out what it would be, and they figured out how they would be able to find it, and they did it. If someone was paying close enough attention, had all the tools necessary to say, okay, if there was a very first Egyptian settlement, probably it was in the Sahara Desert, somewhere near what we now call Egypt, but not exactly. And the kingdom would have spread from there. If that was the case during this humid Sahara era, where would it have been? What would we be looking for in order to find it? I think we could someday get there, but I think it is very, very unlikely. Sand is very unforgiving, and it is not does not preserve in the best way possible. But that is what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate this type of video, this will be in the archaeology playlist here on the channel. So consider hitting that playlist up, and I hope to have you back for the next one.